I call the member for Moore.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I wish to associate myself with the remarks made by the Prime Minister in moving this condolence motion in Parliament yesterday, and those of my colleagues who have contributed to this debate. I wish to pay tribute to a great statesman in the late Lee Kuan Yew. Yesterday afternoon, the Prime Minister and I drove to the Singaporean High Commission in Yarralumla to personally express our condolences and to sign the official condolence book. I was born in Singapore in 1975 and lived there for the first 9 years of my life before emigrating to Australia with my parents in 1984. Lee Kuan Yew was the Prime Minister during the duration of my formative years in Singapore. He was a great visionary leader who shaped the development of modern Singapore. Growing up in Singapore of the late 1970s and early 1980s, I witnessed firsthand some of the transformative reforms and economic development measures implemented by the government led by Lee Kuan Yew. Back then, Singapore was still in the latter stages of recovery from the effects of the Second World War and 3.5 years of Japanese occupation that left the country and economy in ruins. I recall living in parts of Singapore with unsealed roads, a lack of basic infrastructure such as sewerage and drainage, and ramshackle housing. Over the years, these conditions were systematically improved, resulting in the high standard of living that Singaporeans now enjoy. My early understanding of political events in Singapore was influenced by my grandparents. My maternal grandfather, Titus Bertram Smith, often recounted historical events such as when Singapore joined the Malaysian Federation in 1963, only to break away 2 years later on the 9th of August 1965, highlighting Lee Kuan Yew's role in the process of creating independent statehood for Singapore. I also recall my paternal grandmother, Sybil Irene Goodenough, bitterly protesting at the compulsory acquisition of her beloved home by Lee Kuan Yew's government to make way for public housing development. I still remember the address, number 9B, Lorong Jerneh. That was my earliest recollection of government intervention and was part of my early political education. It can be said that my grandmother's sacrifice made way for the betterment of the nation. So today, on behalf of the Australian community, I pay tribute to a remarkable leader who devoted 6 decades to public life, serving for 31 years as Prime Minister, a visionary who transformed an island nation with limited natural resources into a vibrant centre of commerce and trade through the turbulent post-war era. He oversaw the development of an acclaimed education system, advances in healthcare, built an efficient public transport system via the MRT, Mass Rapid Transport Network, and implemented a universal superannuation scheme, the Central Provident Fund, to provide for citizens in retirement. Today, Singapore is a modern metropolis, a strong economy, and a financial capital with more than 130 international banks represented. By combining Western systems with Eastern philosophies, the British Westminster system of governance with Confucian values, a strong, prosperous nation was built. Self-discipline, a strong work ethic, and strict adherence to law and order are hallmarks of contemporary Singaporean society. Singapore is truly an international nation, an active participant in the global arena with engaging foreign policy and strong strategic defence alliances with neighbouring nations such as Australia. In his time, Lee Kuan Yew overcame significant challenges and managed to unite the diverse ethnic groups in Singapore, the Chinese, Malays, Indians, and Eurasians together to form a harmonious and cohesive society which is best reflected in the National Pledge. We, the citizens of Singapore, pledge ourselves as one united people, regardless of race, language, or religion, to build a democratic society based on justice and equality so as to achieve happiness, prosperity, and progress of our nation. My sincere condolences go to the Lee family and the Singaporean people. May Lee Kuan Yew's lasting legacy result in stronger relations between Singapore and Australia in the future.